Welcome back to the Flyers Nitty Gritty podcast, getting gritty with it with your host, Yariv, Wolok, and my special guest for the evening, Pearlo and Steel from SteelFlyers.com. Gentlemen, welcome. How you doing? Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much for having us, man. It's always a pleasure to be on here with the Flyers Nitty Gritty. That's for sure, man. For sure. Can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, this is exciting for me, and I'm really happy that you had me on, and I'm doing fantastic. It's going to be a great new year. It's going to be awesome.
Awesome, yeah. We got a lot of it's really nice now because, obviously I've been doing these episodes nonstop. I know you guys do your shows as well. There's actually cool stuff to talk about, and it's I got a smile on my face. We're heading into New Year's, and there's actually hockey news. There's actually been hockey on, and I want to talk about it, all the good stuff. So thanks for joining me, and I'm excited. There's going to be a good energy for this show. First, before I begin, though, I do want to give a shout-out to our sponsor, Jim's Steaks on South. Thank you to Jim's for sponsoring us. If you guys don't know them, they're on South Street, 3rd and South. They're awesome. They have great cheesesteaks. Definitely check them out. They're also Flyers fans, so obviously support, keep it within the family. That's why they wanted to work with us, and it's why we wanted to work with them. So it's awesome. Check them out, and definitely support businesses during COVID. It's a perfect takeout meal. All right. So moving forward, let's talk about topics, though. We do have some hockey going on. It's the World Junior Championships. There are a bunch of important games going on within that. I do want to be a little, Flyers focused, so I'm going to stick a little bit more with the Flyers topics on World Junior Championships. There's a lot to go over, but teams are kind of getting dominated right now. There's a little bit of competition, but we really have to get past the preliminaries for it to get interesting. Let's talk about players specifically. I want to talk about USA to start, and I want to talk about Cam York and Bobby Brink. The two of them have both combined for either a point per game or plus point. I think Bobby Brink has 2 goals, 1 assist. Cam York has 1 goal and 3 assists, or maybe it's 4 assists. No, it's 4 assists. I think he has
6 points now.
He does. You're right. I'm sorry.
6 points.
I believe he leads all defensemen in the tournament in points.
Yep.
And which for me, as far as York, is not surprising to me at all. I have really high expectations for him. Obviously, the Team USA is good overall. And Brink, I think, is being underutilized a little bit. I expected that, though, considering he is kind of like a Travis Konechny type of guy on a very deep team. Like, Konechny wasn't respected on his juniors team as well for how talented he is. But, I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear what you guys think about. Let's start with Cam York first, and then we'll go into Bobby Brink. Steel, I'll go with you first. What do you think about Cam York? What do you think about his performance with Team USA and his role? And I guess I didn't even mention the fact that he's been selected as captain, which I think is also, we'll mention that at the end.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on. It's always a pleasure being here with the best. Being in with the pros of the nose, that's for sure. So I tell you what, I've really been looking forward to not only just having hockey on, but watching the World Juniors. It's something that I've been paying attention to the last couple of years here, a lot more so than I have in the past. Okay. And kind of that it's on NHL Network, kind of the only place you can watch it. So if you don't really have it, you're not really privy to be able to watch it. But I'm privy to be able to watch it. And I'll tell you what, I have been blown away by Cam York. His maturity level, when he's out there skating around, he looks like a man among boys. He looks like, you can tell he's the oldest player out, or he skates and acts like he's the oldest player out there. And that's why he got the C, because the team voted for him to get the C. So, impressive? Yes. I can't wait to see him in orange and black. How's that?
I would say well said. Pearlo, what do you think, man?
I think he's come a long way really fast. That's what I like about York. When he first got drafted, there was positional issues. There's not positional issues now. Not even close. That guy's in the right position consistently all the time. Getting named captain is so huge for that team and so huge for his confidence. The offense is not what he's been touted for, but that's come a long way more than anything that I've seen with Cam. To me, I don't often say this about a 19-year-old guy, but he's almost ready. He's almost ready from what I can see right now. To play positionally like that, especially when you look at the Philadelphia Flyers depth chart and lineup, at the very least, it's kind of unfortunate that we're in it's going to be a bubble type situation or a taxi type situation, because it may be best if the AHL is going to give him a year now. But I think if not for that, I would pretty much be hooked into the fact that he would be making the lineup as it stands right now. He may anyways. I've been really surprised. I didn't get to see him much in college, but from what I did see and where he is now, he has improved leaps and bounds. Absolutely fantastic.
You know, it's interesting, Pearlo, you mentioned that about the offensive production that's not touted for York, because I agree with you. He's not talked about as this dynamic offensive defenseman, but if you look at his actual production, his productivity, it's top notch. It's record breaking, actually, in a lot of ways. And it's interesting because he's got a subtlety to his game, I think, that's underappreciated. And the problem is he's always going to be compared with Cole Caulfield here in Philly, right?
Yeah.
And nobody should be. I'm not doubting Cole Caulfield. I expect him to continue to be amazing, and probably will make me sick to sometimes to watch him perform. But on the other hand, I do see something special with somebody like York. I believe because of his age, his offensive production, it's a subtlety that people don't understand, or maybe people didn't see it first. But I've been talking about him making the Flyers after this season for about 12 months already. And I did this with Farabee. It's that program, that U.S. development program. You can see it with Zegras. You know, you can see it with Boldy, but really with Zegras. I mean, Zegras looks like another Barzal. Like, that kid looks amazing.
Yeah.
But I see a really special player in York. Speaking of offense with York, before we go to Brink, and you know what, Pearlo, I'll go to you back on this because you brought up the point. Do you see his offense translating to the NHL the way he puts up points? Do you see him being potentially like a Provorov offensively? We can even say Sanheim. I think Sanheim's getting to that point too. But a guy who puts up maybe 50 points a year in the NHL, maybe even potentially 60 one year. Do you ever see him kind of putting up those numbers in the NHL?
Well, I'll be the first to admit that when he got drafted, I didn't think he had this much offense in him. So, I mean, what kind of growth could there be past this? Sure, I can't. From what I've seen, the leaps and bounds that he's improved. I thought when they drafted him, he was definitely going to be a player. I think it's just coincidentally to me, the person who reminds me of is a person who just left. People said all these same things about Niskanen when he first came in, too, that he didn't really have that much offense, that he was going to be like a 5-6. Well, he turned it into a 1-2. And
that was nonsense, though. That was nonsense to begin with. I don't even know where people made that up. But continue, please.
But that's what people were saying. Now, in this case, I didn't know that I didn't know where York's offense was going to be. I did know that he always did the little things, and he had some defensive issues, but I didn't think they were a problem. Like, he would definitely work on that and become. He naturally knew his position well right when they drafted him. He's just gone so far. I don't know what his ceiling is now. Like, that's what I'm saying. I just don't know what his ceiling is now. I'm not going to put a ceiling on it because I was pretty high on him when they drafted him, and he's going above my thoughts about where he would be already at this time. So that's what I would say there. I don't know where his offensive upside, because he's already way farther than I thought he would be.
Steel, what do you think?
Maybe it won't translate into as many points in the NHL, because it depends on if he maybe puts another, say, half inch or another inch on, maybe puts another 10 pounds maybe of muscle on. It all depends. I mean, he's still 19. He still could potentially get a little bigger, a little stronger. You know what I mean? So the only thing that he can do now is up. So if he gets 50, 60 points a season in the NHL? Okay, where does we sign?
Yeah.
Even if he only gets 20 or 30, I still would like to see him. I still like that game. I still like how he plays. I still like how he plays defense. I still like how he moves the puck and things of that nature. So even if he doesn't give us 50 or 60, I'm not going to consider that to be a bust if he only does 30 or 40. You see what I mean?
Yeah. Here's the problem with the narrative, right, is that everybody's always going to compare him to Caulfield. So people are always going to do that, right? So he's got to – but I do agree with you. I think even if he's a 30-point defenseman, it's still a very good player. But I'm in the camp with Pearlo here, where I'm not saying you're not either, Steel, but like my whole thing on him to begin with was always this kid has always been in the youngest of his age group, which to me at their age is extremely important. Him, I've said this countless times, him and Jack Hughes, were the only underage players to make that U.S. development program, and look at the caliber of those players. Again, first overall pick is the other one. The other one is Cam York. And then all those other players are all exceptional. So I look at him and I go, he's a defenseman. He was the only D-man to do that. The rest of the guys are forwards. So now I'm looking at the fact that he's not a big kid. He's breaking records. He's the youngest of his age group as a defenseman. I'm putting all these things together, and I go, I just feel like the potential for him is so uncertain that it could exceed what everybody expected, which I think initially when he was drafted, the thought was this guy is a really good number 3 defenseman. You know? Now I'm like, could he end up being like, I don't know. My mind is like, his bottom is like a Brian Rafalski, and his ceiling is like a Niedermeyer, a Scott Niedermeyer. I mean, like, that would be incredible. And Niedermeyer is an all-time great. I don't want to put that on him, but like a Brian Leach, these are guys who could be franchise-changing. I don't know if he's going to be that way, but the fact he got picked as captain, the mentality, if all things go really well, I don't know, man. It could. At least another Provorov would be amazing.
We'll take that, right, all day. I mean, we'll take a team full of Provorov. Well, a D-line full of Provorovs anyway, right? Well, we'd have to sprinkle a little bit of somebody else in there, you know what I mean? But
by the way, Caulfield, I'm not as high on him as everybody else is, by the way. So I could talk about that sometime. Sorry about jumping on you there, but
no, that's okay.
My top player from that group is Zegras. It was at the draft. I every time I watch that kid, I go, that's the guy that if he was available over York, that's the guy where I'd be like, no, Zegras. That was the guy that got me really excited. I still really love York and all that, but I wanted Barzal. If we didn't go after Provorov back in the day, that was my pick. So in my mind, I was like, oh, okay, we have York and we have Zegras. So I'm like, can we get another shot at a Barzal type of guy? But yeah, I agree.
We have a really unique problem in Philadelphia, don't they? They have got such a stacked defensive core of players to choose from. And here's going to be the sad thing about this year, because as well as Cam York is playing, as well as Bobby Brink is playing, and some of these other players, excuse me, they're probably not going to get invited to camp unless they become the Black Ace squad or those group of players that's going to travel with the team or whatever the case is. And that is where I think is where we're going to see the hurt come in, if especially we don't get some AHL. Now, from what I understand, they're calling for the AHL to start in February or something like that, right? So if these guys don't get a chance to play or to continue to play, at least in the AHL, I don't see them doing anything with the Flyers this year. Like, I don't see them getting an invite to camp.
Oh, a guy like York. Well, there might not be a dev camp. That's where I think there will be an AHL season, right? And I think guys will play. But going into next season, a guy like York, he might consider, like, there will be players who might consider Europe over, playing in the United States or, parts of Canada. And, like, maybe a guy like York, if he's like, all right, well, if I'm not playing on the Flyers, maybe I'm going to go play in Sweden.
Or wherever.
Be a top defender there for a little bit. Austin Matthews did it, right? It's possible. But I do think they'll figure it out. But who do you really see kind of challenging to come up from that area though? Already outside of like a guy like York, and are you referring to like Zamula?
Just guys that are already there. Zamula, Haig.
Well,
Gosh,
Haig will be with the team. It'd be free.
Yeah. Oh gosh, man, I'm blanking on his name.
It'd be Wyatt Wiley is a guy, but I don't
He's
know.
enough, but I think we already have enough guys that are already there, that are young and that are there. Plus the fact that we have Ghost, we have Gustafsson, we've got Moran coming up. That's another guy that I think might be a guy that might step into a role there. Moran, I think, might be able, depends on if he's good to go. You know what I mean? And depending on if Zamula is going to be one of those guys that could do that too. I think there's already enough guys that are there in the system currently right now that we have that is going to push Cam York to next year.
For sure. I think without a doubt, Cam York is not imminent, definitely not for this year as any kind of basis. And even for next year, though, I don't disagree with you. There's enough competition to even question, will he make the Flyers? I still
if
think
this was a normal year, and it was a normal training camp and everything like that, he would have definitely gotten an invite to camp.
Oh, this year? Well,
at least the rookie camp, or at least the young guns camp or something.
Well, that's why he's surprising people. Go ahead, Pearlo. Sorry.
I would go far enough to say that if it was a normal year, he'd be pushing for a lineup spot. I really think he's improved that much. I'm very impressed with what he's done there. Next year, almost assuredly, if I was anybody there that's in the 5-6 spot, I might be calling my agent and asking what is out there, because I'm pretty sure York is going to be taking my spot. I like him that much.
I don't disagree with that at all, actually. I don't disagree with that at all. I think he's more NHL ready than Zamula, even though Zamula is older. I think he has a more well-rounded game. I think he'll already be able to handle the pro game by the time he gets there. Just like Farabee, also that U.S. development program, whatever they're doing over there, they nailed it. And the maturity of the players is clearly there. Farabee's also guy's captain material.
Really like Joel's game. Really like his game.
Exactly. So let's actually move to Bobby Brink here, because we're gonna gush over York forever, and obviously it's getting to that point. Yeah. So Bobby Brink is another guy. He's having a pretty good tournament. This is a guy who's gonna go under the radar probably overall for now, and he's a guy who'll probably make noise once he's in our system. He's a guy I suspect will start in the AHL, but probably light it up, my guess, and then probably challenge for an NHL spot really quickly. And at that point, it's, do the Flyers have the room? Is Wade Allison playing here? Who the heck is playing here at this point?
Yeah.
Bobby Brink is NHL ready. But he's had a good tournament so far, and obviously had a really good game against an underpowered team. But we'll see how he does overall in the tournament. Maybe he'll get more ice time and so on. Pearlo, I'll start with you on this one. What do you think about Bobby Brink and his performance so far in the WJC?
Well, Bobby Brink to me is pretty simple. He's not going to let you not pay attention to him, no matter what. That's Bobby Brink's game. I'm going out there, and whatever ice time you give me, you're going to remember I was on the ice. So if there is somebody above him that's not doing that, he's going to take it over. That's Bobby Brink's game. I don't know what his high side is as far as the NHL is concerned. I think he puts up about a point a game in college. That's always a good sign for a guy his age. He looks. Again, this seems to be the mantra of the Philadelphia Flyers. They pick players where it's like they have unknown upside. I am not sure about Bobby Brink's upside. I wasn't sure when they drafted him, but I do know that wherever he is in a lineup, the guy is going to beat whoever is supposed to be in that lineup. Like, you are not going to it's not going to be because you outworked Bobby Brink that you got that spot. You may have a little more skill. You might have a better shot. You might have whatever, but it's never going to be because, and connecting is a good example of that. So where can Bobby Brink go? His work ethic, man, who knows? He could be a first-line winger, a second-line winger. He could play center. He'll play whatever you want to play. He could be a great utility guy. Whatever he is, he's probably going to play. And he's shown it now, and he's getting more ice time because if there's anybody out there that isn't as committed as him, coaches are going to play a guy like that. Simple as that. He's just going to beat you for the spot, so you better be prepared. At the very least, a guy like Bobby Brink, even if he comes up and he's going to be at least, I think, one of those guys that are smaller, fourth-line guys. Grimaldi in Nashville is a good example of that just gets every inch out of what they've got. And coaches just absolutely love him. So that's what I think of Bobby Brink. I don't know what his upside is. I don't want to put a point production in the NHL or something like that. But I know he's going to do that, and he's sure doing it. He's sure doing it.
Yeah.
And looking good doing it too.
Yeah.
What do you think, Steel?
I'll tell you what. I like that he's getting more ice time, and I think that you specifically said it, Yariv, that he is comparatively to Konechny. He has the same kind of game. He has that same kind of tenacity, and he's got really nice hands and good vision. And when you put all that together with the work ethic that Pearlo pointed out with, that right there is just a recipe for success in my book. And when you have that together with somebody who is willing to play up and down the lineup wherever you put him and is going to outwork you, hey, sign me up for more of that. Okay, the only thing I think that is going to be that might potentially hold him back is some of the size issue. But if he's able to work and get the speed, okay, then I think he's going to be okay. But Pearlo said it. We keep getting these guys that have this unknown upside, and then you start seeing them play a little bit, and then you're like, well, wow. Man, I guess the scouting staff did a pretty good job on the Flyers, and this cat's playing pretty good. This guy's pretty good. They did a good job. I think they did a good job on Brink, and I think he's going to be fighting for a roster spot, I think, sooner rather than later. But it's all going to be based off of getting ice time. And with him being on a USA team right now that's stacked, he has to be what he's doing right now in order to get the ice time, in order to get noticed. And he's doing it. Okay? Yeah. And that right there is what's impressive. The fact that he has to do it and he's doing it.
I'll say this, and about the comparison to TK, I don't know if I see them as like the exact same type of player. Not to derail what you're saying. No,
not exactly. But
I do see listen, I see what everybody's saying too, and that's why I say that, the Konechny thing. I just want to point out that I actually think Konechny is a very special player. I think he's on the verge of becoming an above a point per game player in the NHL. I think the pace that he's been on is a elite top right winger. Yeah. I think what he's doing is pretty rare. I think if Bobby Brink can hit like 80% of that's great. Where I kind of see him, I feel like he's maybe a little bit better in the corners than Konechny, but he doesn't have that skating like you were saying, Steel. He doesn't have like the explosive skating that I want to see from him to be like, that guy is a for sure top six forward in the NHL, but he does have a ton of skill. And I really like what Pearlo was saying. He does seem like the guy that he is a battler for his size. So like with that attitude plus all the overall just skill, he's a really good shooter. He's got excellent hands. Like all of that is there. And he has like really good dynamic ability and tight. But if he can just gain some speed and better skating to like kind of drive play at the higher levels, he could be a top line player as well. I just don't know if he's going to hit the Konechny type of level. Konechny just seems to me like a little truck. Like the fact that he was so low on the Canada's rosters, like their depth is ridiculous. But when he played in those games, he was dominant. I remember following. They were like, why are you guys not playing? And that team did not do well. They restructured that team. That Canadian team did not do well, and he was one of their best players, and they put him on the fourth line. So it's like, that was almost like really weird, where I think like Bobby Brink is like, I think he is kind of where he's supposed to be. We're connecting. I think people didn't realize how good this guy actually is. And I think we're seeing that right now. I think
Yeah, I kind of
underestimated.
right now I see him more like a Vinny Hinostroza or something like that, where he plays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's possible, but I don't know where his upside is because his IQ is so high.
Yes, exactly.
He's got such a high IQ, and those guys can just find ways. They just find ways to be able to put up enough points to be in your top 9 or something like that. It's possible. It's possible.
And to add to that, actually, and I'm going to look up the exact numbers. So the kid jumps to the NCAA, right? So he's already dominating the USHL prior to that, right? He did really well for the national team under 18, always putting a point per game pace, right? He made that the U.S. development program team. He didn't stay there, but he made that team initially. At least he was part of it. And then he goes off to college hockey and then goes almost a point per game player as an undersized freshman. And that's what I mean. He's never struggled. So that's why when you say that, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, he could. That's what I said. I could see him going to the AHL and being a point per game player again. And then you're just like, okay. And then he goes to the NHL. Maybe he's not point per game, but maybe he's just under. Maybe he's a 50, 60-point player in the NHL. He's been moving at that pace.
I was going to say, we would take all that. We would take 50, 60 points all day, right?
I think that would be
from somebody that young coming in, yeah.
Yeah, that would be his high end, I would say. But he's got the IQ that he's one of those guys that can put up points, and you're like, did he just do that?
Right.
Like, you didn't realize that he did what he did until afterwards, because he just knows where to be on the ice. He knows exactly how to play within his size and all of that. So it'll be interesting to see what Bobby Brink becomes.
Yeah. So let's talk about the last guy of this group. As I want to get past the World Juniors here, and I don't want to forget about him though. Emil Andre is also in the World Juniors. He is also an undersized player, kind of a trend that we're talking about right now. Flyers taking risks. But Emil Andre has been playing for Team Sweden. First game did not play much at all. Second game, I believe he played just under 22 minutes and had kind of a better performance. Now, I don't know what his role will be with that team because of his size and current age, but it seems to me that his role will probably grow as the tournament goes on. He's much stronger than people anticipate, and if he started off with lower minutes and then got more responsibilities into the next game, that tells me that he's trending in the right direction, at least for now. Steel, I'll start with you on this one. What do you think about Emil Andre in the tournament? I know you said you got to watch a little bit of Sweden, but what do you think about a guy like him, especially with his height, his weight, and who he is, his role for Sweden? What do you think overall?
Well, the fact that the first game that I watched, he didn't get very much ice time at all. I mean, I think he only played 4.5, 5 minutes, something like that for the whole game.
It's like 6 minutes, I think.
Yeah, or something like that. And then the second game, you said 22 minutes, right? I was like, oh, hey, seeing more of him out there skating around. Hey, it was good.
Plus, yeah.
Right. And so seeing him out there skating around more was definitely a good sign. Not playing up against the best of teams per se, going up against the top, they're not going up against the top talent right now. Okay. But I like how he's shown out, and I'd be interesting to see how the third game is going to be for him, because the first game for Cam York and the first game for Brink was Cam York came out and scored and Brink had an assist, and then the second game came out and that game was what was it, 11-0 or something like that, right? And then the next game was a little bit different, okay, a little bit more. So I think the third game when we see Emil Andre, depending on how much ice time he gets, is going to be more of a judge of kind of what his role on the team is going to be moving forward. You know what I mean? Because he went from 5 or 6 minutes in the first game. Now he's up over 20 minutes in the second game. That's a lot more responsibility. That's playing in a lot more situational hockey, being on power plays, being in PKs and stuff like that. So I want to see. I want to see what the third game is going to be like, and then I'll go from there.
Nice. Pearlo.
Well, Andre probably wouldn't have been there if Hollander wouldn't have had his issues. So I'm just happy that he's getting the opportunity for us to be able to be in the big stage like this and get that experience that he's doing. And that's pretty much what it is for Andre right now. He was a project. He's a project. He's got skill like crazy. so much skill, but the whole overall game is very raw right now. So he did play. He's played 20 games in Sweden for the Swedish Elite League. That is huge honor there in Sweden for a kid his age and his size to be playing 20 games and not putting up many points, but playing every game. So this is showing the type of skill that he can provide to a team when you're playing against men. They just see so much in this kid. And my enthusiasm is great for that reason, because he's not a big guy, but he's another one of those guys that won't let you not pay attention to him. And it just seems to be the theme here with our draft picks, is that we pick players that won't let you not pay attention to them. It's simple as that. You can easily say, he's 5'8", whatever. He's got some skill, but he doesn't just go on the ice and flash a little bit of stick work. He goes on the ice and plays above his size, and he goes on the ice saying, I want minutes, and you're going to give them to me, and this is why. And that's what I like about Andre, and that's the reason why I think we drafted him, and I think it's what's going to get him to where he's going to go. And like we said, York has did the exact same thing. Where am I going to put him and project him with his tenacity for his size? That he just seems like a kid that isn't going to let anything get him down. I don't know. But I'm very happy that he's getting the opportunity to have this experience in the big stage and be able to show as many people as possible that, hey, I'm here for a reason.
Yeah, and I think his age is the biggest thing to point out here, right? While we talk about Bobby Brink and Cam York, they're both 19 years old. Andre is 18 years old, so he's younger, newly drafted, to be playing this type of role. And if he does get more minutes, it's not really what is he doing this year, because I don't think this year overall will be one of those years where you'll see him at the top of the points. But it's what's his role on this team next year, because he's going to be back. There will be another World Junior Championship. He will be 19. And if he's already made this team, even as a reserve, right? But if he's getting minutes, if he gets more minutes, he's definitely going to be in that top 4, right? Maybe top pairing, just like York. York was the extra 7 last year, right? And then now he's their captain. So you look at a guy like Andre, maybe he is heading in that direction as well. He has a lot of raw talent. Totally agree with what you're saying, Pearlo. He does seem like kind of those raw talent type of things where they kind of just went, this is a very highly skilled athlete with an extremely hard work ethic, something that Sweden has recognized, but he's like undersized in some sense. But like outside of that, if he's 3 inches taller, 4 inches taller, probably not really a question whether he was even on the team to begin with. No. So it's like, it's really nice to have a guy like that, because, you know, he could be a late bloomer as well, even maybe physically, potentially.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know what I mean? Because you can't guys come to their maturities at different age levels, you know, and here's the thing with all 3 of these players that we're talking about. We all feel that they have great upside. We've seen the upside of York. We've seen the upside of Brink, where we could potentially be seeing the upside of Emil Andre as well, too. All of these players, I think, would benefit immensely from playing in the AHL at least 1 year.
Sure.
Okay, and so I would like to see those guys get an invitation to the AHL. If the AHL is going to play this year, I would like to at least see if some of these guys can get in, or how they're going to be able to do it. I don't know how it's going to work or whatever.
To your point, if the AHL does come back and they have like an extended season, and let's say maybe the SHL seasons end early, there are situations where they call some of these guys over and give them some ice time. So, you know, we could see, but I think it's more about next year, don't you, at this point?
Yeah. All of these guys, all of them are going to be all about next year.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Here's a little something for a guy who's 5'8". Last year for the Sweden under-20 team, he got 82 penalty minutes.
Who, Emil Andre?
Yes.
He's listed as 5'9" on Hockey DB.
5'9".
We'll give him that.
But he wasn't 5'9" when he was doing that. 182.
Exactly.
In Sweden, he got 82 penalty minutes. So here's a guy who's saying,
in 20 games.
Here, no, more than that.
Okay.
It was, but in Sweden, that is unheard of. to get those kind of penalties. That's a guy who's saying, yeah, I'm looking to go to North America here. I'm not afraid to be mean. I'm not afraid to do that. I'm not afraid to do whatever I got to do to get there. And that's what I love about this guy. And that's what I like about all the guys. They're drafting competitors. York, there's a great example. Why is he the captain? Because he's a competitor. These guys are all competitors. Wherever they make it on the lineup, they're going to be competitors.
I like that.
Yeah, can't go wrong with picking guys like that. You know what I mean? And we all talk about the fact, look, as we sit back as fans and look at the Flyers and they go, oh, man, they drafted another guy that's 5'8". Oh, man, they drafted another guy that's 5'7". Oh, man, they drafted another guy that's 5'11". What are they doing? But now we're starting to see some of these players and why they drafted them. Yeah, and what was the reason why you drafted these players? Well, this is why. You're getting to see why we're drafting these players. So that just bodes to one question, though. We're going to need at least somebody on the team to watch over all these diminutive players, yeah?
What do you mean? Are you talking about a tough guy?
Well, I don't know if we need a tough guy, but we need some bigger people on the team.
Well, I mean, Isaac Ratcliffe is 6'6".
Okay, and Moranis was 6'7".
Allison 6'2".
Right. Okay. Okay. But it's
Korensky, Bunneman's pretty big. I don't know. I understand what people are saying, but it's like, I don't know. It's kind of hard. It would be nice to find a couple 6'4" centers. To be honest with you.
Of course. Who doesn't want that?
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem. But I mean,
would you like another 6'4" guy that doesn't compete like JVR? You know,
well,
like, I'll take.
Well, that's the point in itself, isn't it? But how big was Mike Richards? Mike Richards was 5'11". Is 5'11" at 180.
Yeah, but he played like he was 6'5".
That stuff matters. So actually, now that we're getting into it, because we're starting to talk about competing for camp, I want to get into this. So we got hockey. We got the actual Flyer season's actually coming up. So let's get into this. Flyers are coming up. Camp is opening up. I believe the 3rd is the official date, but camp will really probably open on the 4th. That's probably where they'll start their scrimmages and the practices and everything. There'll be a bunch of scrimmages, a bunch of playing. All these guys are going to be called. They're going to make 2 rosters, obviously, because they're going to have these guys playing each other consistently, either in mini scrimmages, something, but they need situational play. They're going to do a lot of that, so they're going to be all hands on deck as far as players go. But I've been thinking about this, and I want to talk about this to start, and then I want to talk about camp battles overall. But the defense, this has come up quite a bit. I was kind of just researching Eric Gustafsson a little bit. Like, why did we bring in Eric Gustafsson? Obviously, there's the obvious, where, you know, an offensive defenseman. Our power play wasn't doing that well last year. And then I was kind of just watching Gustafsson, and he prefers to play the right side. If you watch, like, all of the goals that he scores, they're almost identical. They're identical. They're a one-timer on the offhand. When he's on the right side, he just lets it rip one-timer. So I can assume right off the bat there that our offense and our power play is going to come under some kind of structural change, because this guy was brought in specifically to do that. Because if you literally just watch his goals, it's like 80% of them are that way. And he tends to shoot that way. And I'm looking at these kind of matchups we have. I don't think he's going to be paired with Provorov. There is a chance of that. He played with Duncan Keith. But where do you guys think Gustafsson is going to play in this 6? If you had to guess in the very beginning, what are they going to guess in the beginning, right? You know nothing, right? You're coming as a coach. Let's not say where he'll be down the line. I want to know where he's going to be at camp. Like, where are they going to try him? He's a newcomer. Pearlo, I'm going to go to you first, because you're looking with a smile on your face. What do you think about Gustafsson?
Because I thought the exact same thing as you, except I think he is going to play with Provorov for that very reason. I think that's exactly what you do. Don't worry about his bloody defense so much. Let him play. Get him as good a defense as possible and play him with your best defensive defenseman, which is Provorov. Is it going to hurt Provorov's offense? Yeah, who cares? Doesn't matter. You let Gustafsson go, and he's going to pot points. The problem that they had in Calgary is they wanted him to be something he's not. He's been around long enough that either you're going to take him for what he is or you're not. You're not going to make him into something that he's not. He's an offensive defenseman. You're going to have to let him go. We'll see if we have a coach that is probably going to pull his hair out a little bit every once in a while, but that is just how you got to play him, and that's simple as that. Unless it's possible we believe that Travis Sanheim has reached that point. And then maybe you can go that way. And but I like Myers and Sanheim together. So I think that's what you got to do to start, and let it fly, and hopefully it works out in the sense that Gustafsson's offense is well worth his defensive shortcomings. That's really what it comes down with him, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I think you said ideally, what would I like for a defensive pairing? Ideally, I'd love Ghost to come out and be Ghost again. Ideally, that would be absolutely amazing. That would be huge for us. And he can play with Prove. And then you can put Gustafsson on with Braun, play him short minutes in offensive situations, and keep him out of the defensive end as much as possible. But that being not the case, I'm playing him with Proby myself.
I can respect that. I'm going to keep my comments till the end. Steel, what do you think?
What he said. I mean, gosh, you said it so eloquently. There's no way. You have to take a guy, especially an offensive defenseman, who is not worried about the 200-foot game. That is not his game. Okay. And Provorov, that is his game. And we already know that AV wants to have guys that are way more 200-foot responsible, especially D-men. Okay. And Pearlo, you pointed it out perfectly. He's probably going to pull his hair out a little bit with Gustafsson. But if you put him with Provorov, and then ideally you put him with, somebody third pairing, so he gets the least amount of minutes, and then put him on the power play and let him go on the power play and just let him fly on that. You know what I mean? So I too would like to see Ghost come back and be the Ghost that he could be, whatever. He's had 2 knee surgeries. He's had a rough 2 years. He's had a full extra extended off season to rest up. I think he's gotten the message now that he needs to buy into the system, or he is going to be Ghost. But because they brought in Gustafsson and things of that nature. But I really like putting Gustafsson out with Provorov, the best defenseman you can put him out there with, because of his liability. Okay, and I agree. Sacrifice Provorov's offense because it's going to be absorbed and tenfold more with Gustafsson out there. And let Provorov be the guy that sits back there and clears the puck up, gets that first pass out to Gustafsson, let Gustafsson come in and take it up and get it to the blue line, and then make the pass from there, or carry the puck in and set up, And as specifically to your point, Yariv, I do think that he's going to be a power play specialist, and I do think that they're going to be a structural change to the power play, because let's face it, the power play last year, all it did was a big giant hot potato. All they did was pass the puck around and nobody shot the puck. Okay, and so there needs to be some type of structural change in the power play in order for us to get shots on goal. Okay, we've got great puck movement. There's never been a question about that. But Gustafsson is going to add that puck movement and add a little bit of that creativity in the power play, more so, I think, than Ghost will.
It's interesting. It's actually it's a trick question. The reality is, because there's no right answer. Right? Like we can go all day because we have no idea what AV is going to do, because any one of those combinations could potentially work. Yeah. My whole thing is this. There's like the double-edged sword. It's like I want the idea of putting that I think Ghost is more dynamic than Gustafsson. I think Gustafsson is more precise. The way I see him shoot, his shots are not as heavy, but they're accurate, and a lot of them are low, and that's stuff that coaches like. So I do think that Gustafsson and Provorov will be tried at camp, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I think 100%. They saw Duncan Keith with Gustafsson. They see Provorov is very similar to Duncan Keith. especially style, game, overall potential. Play with Gustafsson. I definitely think they're going to try it. I think ideally, what they would love to see is Provorov Myers. I think that's going to be the top thing they try to do. Even though Chuck Fletcher did say that he wants to see Myers, they're probably talking that way, Myers and Sanheim together. I just see Sanheim as kind of a half step above Myers right now in readiness, NHL readiness. I think, can we give Gustafsson the secondary role to play with Sanheim, who's also very stable, very fast, also big? Can they complement each other well? And then can we elevate Myers into what he truly is, which is a top pairing defender, and see, can he handle that playing with Provorov, learn a little bit from Provorov. But in fairness, I think they're going to try everything. I was kind of giving you a trick question because it's like, it's kind of like gut check time. We haven't seen camp yet, and we don't really know what they look like together. But if you had to just kind of throw out a pairing, like my top pairing, like if I had to right now, it would be Myers-Provorov, but I'm not set on that. If I really thought about my best two defenders, I would do Provorov-Sanheim. But that's really just because I think they're the top two guys. But it gets weird because I see a guy like Gustafsson. I see the way he handles the puck. And Ghost to me is like this more dynamic, flashy. He's got the turns, the spins. He's got these really nice passing hands. I see Gustafsson as like, he just seems like a sniper. And I saw, Ghost is a sniper. He's a shooter, but he hasn't been accurate lately. And it seems to me that Gustafsson doesn't put as much oomph on his shots, but he gets it where it needs to go. A lot of his goals, just really precise, low shots. Some of them are blasts on the point, but, a lot of just dead accuracy.
But be interested to see what his shot percentages are. And you know what I mean? What Gustafsson's shot percentages are compared to what Ghost's are. You know what I mean?
You just think about giving Giroux somebody who can shoot like that from the off wing, which we haven't had since, Ghost. Ghost. And he put up 17 goals. So
right.
So I'm saying we don't really have guys who shoot from the off wing like that and that are deadly accurate. I think maybe that's what they see there. Maybe that's where the power play role is. Maybe it's actually Provorov stays on the top unit potentially, and he plays the off wing. Potentially, or he just plays power play point, top pairing. But I could see it. You're talking about a crisp 1 point, one touch pass, and just bang them out. You
make good points, and one thing I will say is I don't see Gustafsson playing much more than 10 to 12 minutes a night. That's likely down the road.
That's too low.
You watch.
It's got to be more like, but not for a guy who makes $3 million. It's got to be like.
That's why I did like the $3 million.
but guys who play 10 to 12 minutes a night, that's like your bubble. Like even Haig plays 17 minutes a night when he plays. So it's like, I figure he's still gonna play 15 to 17 minutes.
I think when he starts, he might.
You think he's that bad defensively?
Yeah, especially with AB as a coach. I think it'll end up. Now, don't get me wrong. I think his time. I think. Sometimes you can have a player that is extremely valuable in the minutes given. Let's say 14. Maybe I'm a little low. Let's say 13, 14.
Okay.
I think when he's on the ice, he'll be on with Provorov because they want the best defensive. That doesn't mean that Myers is not going to play with Provorov because Provorov's going to play half the game. So Myers will be playing a lot with them as well. It's just when he's on the ice, he'll likely play with Provorov, and he'll probably play all power play minutes. No way Gustafsson's playing half the game.
So let me ask you this. Are you saying that there essentially will be no set pairings, essentially, and it'll be Provorov kind of carrying a set of roles with him, like, I want the top pairing to be more offensive, I'm going to throw him out there with Gustafsson. I want them to be more of a shutdown pairing, I'm going to throw them out there with Myers or Braun. And they're just going to rotate in players like that?
What's wrong with that?
Probably. That's what I think they're looking at here. But, Gustafsson adds something like Steel has been saying, and you have said, that they didn't have. They just didn't have a guy that had the creativity on the power play, a shot like that, to be able to shoot off. And that's the reason why they didn't shoot. They didn't have anybody confident enough, like Gustafsson is, with their shot to be able to do what they were doing. And now they do have that. Now, Gustafsson could come in and just have a revelation. AV has been known to get things out of players that you just don't normally, that no coach can see or get. And next thing you know, he's playing 18, 20 minutes a night, and he's playing with, he's playing with whoever. I'm not going to say no. I'm just going based on what I've seen from Chicago and in Calgary. I can't, if he doesn't change his game, I don't see AV having enough confidence in him to be playing him more than 12 to 14 minutes at max.
And that's the thing. And at that point, it's like, well, why isn't Ghost in that exact same role? And it's like, and then you have two guys who are only capable of playing, at least on this team. I'm hoping that not to be the case. I'm hoping that Ghost, more of a suspect of injury, and that AV, because AV is like, he's lenient with some things and then really harsh with other things. You know, like Hackstall coached scared. He coached scared. Like, he was scared to lose. That's why Lindblom was benched. That's why TK got benched at times. He was scared to lose. Where I feel like AV just kind of sends a message. Like he sits like, high-end player. Like, he sat Lawton because he's like, dude, you're a better player than this. It's like he almost does more of a wake-up call. Like, he's not scared about playing players. And that's where I'm like, if he has Gustafsson in the lineup, I hope that's not the case. You know what I mean? Like, I hope there's no player in the lineup that gets babied. Because if that's the case, we're too deep. Get him out. Like, that would be my attitude. It's like, put in Mark Friedman then. Like, if you have a guy, if you think this guy can only play 10, and I'm not saying that you're saying this, Pearlo, but if you have a guy out there that you think is only capable of playing 10 minutes in your lineup, 11 minutes in your lineup, then get rid of him. Like, that's where I am at this point. It's like, I get it where people are coming from, but we're too good and too competitive at this point. If it's happening, it better be because everybody else is playing amazing, not because he's playing poorly.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that for sure.
Too much young talent internally.
Exactly. And we don't look, they're going to have to do some experimentation in camp, and that's just how it's going to have to be. And I think what you might see shake down is this. You might see Ghost come out and have a different attitude, because I think he got the message last year. Okay. And I think with his surgeries and him having some time to heal, he might come back as that Ghost of old. If he does, then some of the stuff we're talking about is moot. If Gustafsson comes in and he buys into AV's system, okay, because he's the new guy coming in, and guess what? Here's the coach, here's the game plan, are you buying in? If you're buying in, then we're heading for the cup. You see what I'm saying? And if Gustafsson comes in, and just like what Pearlo said, if he has a revelation and he buys into the system and he does play a little bit more of a responsible 200-foot game.
1 year.
Yeah.
He did it with Chicago. That 1 year with Chicago. To play with Duncan Keith, that's rare. That's why I'm like, how do you play with like in the top pairing, but also is not trusted? You know what I'm saying?
Yep. So if he plays with Provorov, at least in the beginning, and you know what? He could even play with Hag. I could see that too, because Hag is a much more responsible D man. You know what I mean? And that might not even be a bad pairing either. You know what I'm saying? And Hag is one of those guys that's not afraid to go in and bang bodies and things like that too. So I could see that pairing.
I mean, there's a chance, and I don't think it's likely because he's right-handed, but there's a chance that Braun ends up being the seventh defenseman and that Hag beats him out. You know what I mean? I don't think it's likely, but it's possible. I would say to some degree.
Yeah, that's what I'm rooting for. I'm scratching my head on the Braun signing completely.
It's because Niskanen's out. You need veterans.
I understand, but
you can't. Look, there's nobody on that defense above 28 outside. I think Gustafsson's 28. They're all. I mean, I'm 33. And like I look like a kid. Like they're young. They're young and
Ghost is 27, 28 now.
He's a year younger than Gustafsson.
Yeah.
So again, that's our vets. It's like that's why Braun is there. Niskanen was a great guy to do that.
I'm with you, and I agree.
So is Braun,
but see, I have a hard time paying players to sit in the box.
Well, he probably won't. He probably is going to play.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
If he does it, it's because Hag is improved, and I think that's awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
Pearlo, sorry. Did you want to say something, Pearlo? You look like you want to say something.
Well, I was just looking over at Calgary there and how many minutes he was playing. About 13 minutes over in Calgary.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think I think that Calgary. I think we have a better defense than Calgary does as a whole. So It's really going to depend on how he like. I remember Gustafsson when he put up 60 points in Chicago, and they played him with Keith.
Yep.
To tell you the honest truth, I think he was better defensively back then than now. This is a mental thing. So when I say that, I'm based that on what he's done so far.
Sure.
I will take into consideration that AV can get him back to what he was doing in Chicago. It seems like he decided, I don't want to play defense anymore. And somebody's got to get whatever it takes to get his mind back in the defensive. He's never going to be a great defensively. Never. But to be able to do some things and be in the right position and lift a stick and do those things and not just be constantly thinking offense all the time is something that, is going to be a challenge for AV. If he does get that out of him, I actually like Gustafsson. And I think he's going to put some more minutes, but I still think he plays mostly with Proby.
All right. Well, I think those are pretty good analysis on it. And honestly, until we have more info, there's no real much argument there. It's kind of like, I don't know exactly who he's going to play, but I don't think anybody really sees him playing like all over the place. It's kind of like everybody felt like he kind of brought in for Provorov. But let's go into a little bit more of the D battles here. This is the last topic of the night before we close it out. And I want to move beyond the D battle. Sorry, I want to go into like just overall roster battles. I want to talk about some good news. Because this is something that's been hanging overhead, and I'm hearing it in podcasts now. I was listening to Bill Meltzer and Martinez today, and Nolan Patrick's on the ice. Early indications is that he's probably going to be playing, that the results should be good. The test obviously will be him scrimmaging against people, but clearly they were holding him far back for a reason, and not mentioning anything for a reason, as I expect them to, because the media will eat at any word, any mistake. So it looks like Nolan Patrick is going to be playing third line center. We have a lot of options here when it comes to changing stuff up. Who do you see as, like, I guess the ideal lineup for you? I'll give you guys both a minute here. I just want to talk about forwards. Like, what's your, like, top 9? I can list who I want as lines, and I'll list mine first. So I'll give you guys a chance to think about it here. Who are your top 12, right? So let's I'll mine, and I'm just kind of throwing these out there. I haven't thought of these like over and over again, but like right now, if I have to throw out names, I got Giroux, I got Couturier, and I have Voracek. I return that top line together. Second line, I go with Lindblom, Patrick, Konechny. Third line, I go with JVR, Hayes, Farabee. Fourth line, I go Raffle, Lawton, and NAK. And I'm open to changing all of those. I'm open to swapping Hayes. There's so much to move there. But like that's kind of just something I threw together earlier today. And I just love the idea of the TK, Patrick. And again, that's optimistic line, let's be honest. We have to see him play and all that stuff still. But what are you guys thinking in your head? Steel, I'm going to go to you first on this one, then we'll go to Pearlo. What do you think is your top 12 here?
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm going to say this about Nolan Patrick. Okay. Physicals are on the 3rd, and if he's cleared to play and he passes physical and all that, lace him up. If he laces him up, to me, he's a game changer. I feel the same way about Oscar Lindblom. Okay. Both of those two players, those guys right there are like major home run free agents coming into the Flyers, if you ask me, and they're already here. Okay. The fact that they're going to be available to play, because I think both of them are game changers. Okay. And obviously you have Giroux. Obviously you have Konechny. You have Hayes. I think we're going to see a surprise youngster come out. I just feel it.
Coming into the lineup.
Yeah. I don't know who. I Farabee. I really like Farabee. I really like the Hayes, Konechny, and that line together. I really like seeing that line together. Or I would like to see the Nolan Patrick. I'd like to see him in there as well. And Lawton. I see, this is what I see down the center. I see Coots as number 1 center, and then I see Hayes number 2 center. Then I see Patrick, and then Lotz as fourth line center. Okay, that's what I see as the centers dumping down up right down the middle, and I think right there that's the strength of the team right there. And then you're going to see Giroux more on the wing, Farabee on the wing, Raffl on the wing. I really like Raffl. I think unfortunately we might see this might be the last year for Raffl, but I really like him coming in as well too. We might see a Tarwinski make it in. We might see an Isaac Radcliffe. That's why I think there's going to be one of those young players is gonna. I just have that feeling. Obviously, I think we're going to see Van Riemsdyk and Voracek. So that's. I really like the top line as well. I really like keeping that line together. I'm a huge proponent of keeping lines together throughout an entire game, throughout an entire season. The reason why is because when you get guys that play together for an extended period of time, and I'm going to go back to a really great line, and that was the Lindros and Leclerc and Renberg line. Okay, and it wasn't a matter of if they were going to score; it was a matter of when they were going to score. Okay, but that line always stayed together, whether they were on the ice during a regular shift or if they were out there on a power play. Okay, and I would like to see that at least the top two lines stay consistently steady throughout the entire season. I don't care what happens in the bottom two, because the fourth line and the third line are going to be checking lines and energy lines. Okay, but I want the top two lines, the top six guys, to be the same top six guys on a regular basis every night. Don't care who they are either.
Fair enough. So you're just looking for consistency overall.
Yeah, right. Because that's what I think you said. You pointed out before. Hackstall coached scared. And every single night, it was a different lineup. Every single night, it was different guys on different lines. And then AV came in, and he kept Couturier and Coots, Coots and G and Voracek on the same line for the start of the season. Well, and that worked out really nice, and he kept them through for the most part, and then during the season they broke up and then came back together and then broke up and came back. But you know what I mean? That kind of three guys kind of stayed together throughout the entire season. I would like to see more of that with two lines, and I think that we now finally have the depth on offense to do that.
Fair enough. All right, Pearlo, what do you think?
Philadelphia's lineup is probably one of the most difficult to project because Oscar Lindblom. I mean, where is he going to be after taking everything he's been through right now? So I'm going to go basically on an ultimate positivity that everything works out exactly the way I want it for us, and I would put. If everything works out exactly the way I want, and Joel Farabee's put some weight on, and he looks like he, considering Joel Farabee's been fairly light and had a hard time getting weight on, the guy still played absolutely amazing. If he's been able to get some weight on, I'm sorry, I'm breaking up that line. I want Farabee with Couturier and Voracek. I want Lindblom to come back like nothing ever happened and back to where he was before. I know this is asking a lot, but that's okay. I can pretend. And Lindblom, Hayes, and Konechny, man. That lineup, I freaking would love that lineup. Are you kidding me? And then Giroux, I'm sorry, I love you, dude, but you didn't have it in the playoffs. You're starting lower, and you're going to show these kids what it means to work your way back up in the lineup.
You think Giroux has to work his way back into the lineup?
Absolutely, and
he's a franchise player. He's the captain of the team.
And do it awesomely, not because of him, but because he's a captain. And he's going to say, look, kids, this is what it means right here. I'm going to work my balls off, and I'm not going to complain about it. So if you got to go back down, I want to see. To your point. He wouldn't complain about it. And if he beats those kids out, great. And then they can do what he did and not complain about it. He can be a true captain. This is what captains do. Does that mean that Giroux can't do something on that line and still play on the power play and still get minutes? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It means that we're getting depth that he's going to do what's best for the organization. So I would put him on the third with, unfortunately, I don't like Scott Lawton up the middle right now, but it's what we got. But I probably would be Patrick, because now I'm putting Patrick there. And he can play with Patrick and show him what it means to be the future captain of this team, which is what Patrick can possibly be down the road. That's why we drafted him in the first place. Hey, why don't we come back? We're not having migraines anymore. Play him with your captain. Play him with the guy that's been the captain with Philadelphia. Show him. And now you've got 3 power lines. Do you even have a third line in this situation? I don't really think you do.
There is not here.
Yeah, and then so you've got him there, and play Obel or Raffle on the right side, whatever one fits well. I like them both. I think Obel does. I think Obel does a lot in positioning and get himself in a position to get points that goes over and above his skill level. I really love him for that. So I really like Obel there. And then JVR, your fourth line with Frost and whoever's on there, until I see something that says from JVR that I want to compete for that top spot. That's where I'm going to be right now. And if I'm a coach there, I'm going to tell them exactly that. Do you see what Giroux is doing down there in the third? Do you hear him bitching about it? No.
I think, I'll be honest with you, I think there's zero chance Giroux starts anywhere with a top line left wing.
Probably not. I'm saying
but I appreciate it. I actually love what you said about Giroux and Patrick. I completely agree. I would love to actually see Giroux, Patrick, and either JVR, or not JVR, I'm sorry, Voracek, or maybe Konechny or something like that on there. But all of these are shoulda, woulda, couldas. I think Giroux, honestly, will probably be the best player on the team next year. I think people are way too hard. He was the best player on the team leading into the playoffs, and I think it's hard to remember that. But he was on fire. He was dominant. And I just think he's still a dominant player, and I don't see him starting. Farabee, though, I do see what you're saying with Farabee in the long term. I don't know if he's ready for that role. I would love it. But I do see what you're saying. I do see him as a future top line left wing, like a Jonathan Taves on the wing in a lot of ways. Leadership ability, goal scoring, like a Simone Gagne, compare him to, maybe somewhere in the middle between those guys. But I don't hate what you said. I mean, the combinations of players, they work, right? Like what you said, it doesn't sound bad to me. Overall, I think that's kind of the thing. Like even my lines, I would tear my lines apart that I said in the beginning. I see problems with them. There's so many options at this point. I don't really know what the coach is going to do.
I think Giroux would work his way up the lineup.
I know you, and I see.
I don't think he would stay there. He would definitely work. See, it's not going to stay like that. Yeah,
you're saying because of his production in the playoffs that he should have to work his way from a third line role because he didn't produce.
I would talk to him and say, look, dude, I know what you are, okay? This is what we need out of you right now. I want you to show these kids what it means to work up a lineup.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
I know you're going to work up the lineup, but let's put you there and show these kids to reach that age where it's not just about skill anymore.
Oh, did we lose Pearlo? Oh.
More than your skill. We got your skill, all that. So this would give him an opportunity to be captain again, too, because that is sort of questioned right now. This is an opportunity for Giroux to be captain again, to be purely captain.
You have to take the pressure off of Giroux because he's
that would add to him in the playoffs. Pressure. This would add pressure.
This would add pressure to him, actually.
True. Okay, true.
Now
I think I like the idea, though. Yeah, but I really like that idea, though, of putting him with Nolan Patrick, because look what happened.
I love that.
Look what happened with Giroux when he got paired with Yager.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
Giroux exploded. Like that was his prime guy. He should have just stayed. We should have paid him to stay in Philadelphia. And I guarantee you, if he would have stayed in Philadelphia, we'd be talking a lot more about Giroux than we are now. Because when he was paired up with Yager, that was an amazing line.
He put up. You understand? He put up over 100 points 2 years ago. He finished second in the league in points.
Yeah. Look, I've never doubted Giroux. I have
never
doubted.
Which is the best player he's ever played with.
Exactly.
Yager is, Yager's the best player he's ever played with, but he was obviously outside. I love what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying, but I think people are too harsh on Claude Giroux.
Agreed.
If you look at his overall career, he is right there with every other superstar in the league. The amount of fluctuations, the amount of points. Well, I don't think that's what Pearlo was saying. To your point, Pearlo, I actually appreciate what you were saying. You were saying that it would be a nice symbol, like that he would.
Oh yeah.
That start him on third line, and all of a sudden maybe it actually gets more out of him, which is kind of what you're saying. I think a little bit is be like, well, I want Giroux to be a 100-point player again this year. I don't want.
I get the feeling it's kind of wore on him a little bit, and it sort of hit him this last year. And now I see it as an opportunity with him to say, you know what, dude? No, I believe in you, but what we need out of you is to be a captain, and this will give you an opportunity to really be the captain, and because we need you to show these kids what it means to move up a lineup right now, right? So when you are no longer in this organization or are at that age where you can't maybe keep up to that first line possible, these kids know what it means to move up this lineup, and that's what we need from you right now. And I think he would embrace it. I don't think he would take it as a slight at all, and it would set him up on a pedestal of what he really truly is as a captain of this team. And I think it's a great opportunity for him to do it that way.
Wow.
I would not be surprised if AB does this, by the way. I would not be surprised.
I anticipate that he's going to be playing probably the biggest role on the team this year outside of Couturier. I think the conversations they've had with Giroux is that I don't know. I don't really think that they're as harsh on him as we think. I think that he's usually doing all the right things, so I don't think they really say much to him. To be honest with you,
I don't think so either. I
think he comes in and he's top line's left winger.
I did hear AV say that he needs more of his veterans next year, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but that is true. That is a true statement, and you can say that about a lot of players in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
That playoff performance was not where this team was going into the playoffs.
The whole team itself
and
was
that's
a completely different team.
From.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think that whole thing. Yeah, the whole thing with them being a completely different team going into the playoffs and everybody's production dropping off and the whole 9 yards.
But it's not an excuse.
Right, not an excuse. Not even saying that as an excuse. But if you look at what Pearlo is saying, and then you look back at the history of what Giroux has been asked to do his entire career, every coach that's come in has asked him to do something different. Every coach has come in and said, hey, we need you to be in the center. And hey, Giroux, we need you to be on the wing. Hey, Giroux, we need you to do this. Hey, Giroux, we need you to do that. And he has embraced it all the way through. Okay, that's why he's a beloved Philadelphia Flyer and will be forever. Okay, but I really like this idea, and it really sounds like AV. It really just sounds like an AV move to go, hey, Giroux, look, we're going to start you off down here on the third line, and we need you to play here with Patrick. And show him what it's like to be.
Playing with the first overall pick, though, is not really a demotion. At that point, you're saying we don't have.
I don't think. No.
Second overall pick.
See, that's where people have this misconception. I don't look at playing on the third line as a demotion. I don't look at playing on the fourth line as a demotion. Okay, I look at that as being role players. Okay, that to me is not a demotion, in my mind, in my opinion. Okay.
Well, but you're talking. But hold on, we're talking.
Yes, you play less minutes.
Claude Giroux is not an average player. We have to make it
Agreed.
very clear. This is a guy who is I'm going to say it again, a franchise caliber player.
Agreed.
He's been leading this. He's going to be hung up in the rafters whether he wins a championship or not.
Agreed.
And he's probably going to retire early when he's still producing, just like Matt Niskanen, who's older, at one of his highest offensive seasons, and then just walked away from the game. So it's
I hope we can get his name on a cup, man.
I might even, if I'm the coach, I might even go into this saying that I don't even think we have first, second, and third lines with these, what I put together here. So then you're also you're taking that whole thing off of the table. And you're just saying, I don't even think we have first, second, and third lines here. So, but I just like the opportunity. In a way, everybody kind of knows they do. But with those lines, like I see it, I don't really see. You got to put Couturier as our number one center no matter what. But I I see those as pretty even lineups, especially if Patrick is able to get playing right off the bat.
And could you imagine? That's 3 lines that we could roll. 3 power lines.
Oh yeah.
What?
Well, we did it. We did it at a point last year prior to Lindblom going down, and it's going to be a highly effective, highly powerful offense. It's just about playing as a team, I think, and especially with all the talent, it's going to be about playing as a team. That's why I said if somebody's not trusted in that lineup, just pull them out. You know what I mean? Because there's too much talent in the lineup to worry about somebody who's talented but isn't fitting in. It's like just move him out. And that's where, like, if Ghost doesn't fit in, I mean, he's definitely going to be exposed. JVR, I look at JVR's contract. If he continues to go, they're going to get rid of him. It's just the reality. They'll buy him out if they have to. But if they have somebody who's in the way, talent-wise right now, this team is gearing up for championships. They're going to remove you from the lineup. It's no longer development mode for the Flyers. It's now we have all the talent. We have a bunch of young talent. We can give them breaks, right, as they make their way through the lineup. But it really is time to win championships. We kind of hit that point.
Especially for the fact that Giroux is not getting any younger. Couturier is not getting any younger.
Exactly.
Voracek is not getting any younger. And that's right. The windows are starting to and
they're not closing, but
they're not closing.
The 10-year run is starting. That's what I said. That's what we were saying in the beginning. Hextall forced us to sit there and wait. Now that's over. All the assets are here. All the eggs are in the baskets. Like it's go time. If we don't make moves now,
time to start making omelets now.
Exactly. If we don't pull it off now, then it is to waste. And Hextall was, then what he was planning, unfortunately wouldn't work out. Hopefully that's not the case.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, here's the thing that I think is going to be a major issue in training camp, especially this year, is the number of turnover that teams have had and the lack of turnover.
We haven't.
Flyers. That's what I mean.
It's going to pay off.
We've only had what Gustafsson has come in, and who was that other guy that Andy, not Andy,
Andreoff?
Yeah, and there was another guy that we brought in too, as a defenseman.
Pouliot.
Pouliot, that's it. Okay, but for the most part, we have not had. It's the same roster, so we have had very little turnover and very little players going in and out.
He did that on purpose, I think.
I think that's going to help the Flyers, especially coming out of the gate, especially in the first 10 or 15 games. Because you're going to look at other teams that have had a lot of turnover and going to go, well, wow, man, we don't have any exhibition games and we only have a 2-week camp to kind of put it all together. And so they're going to have the first 10 games is going to be their preseason or their warm-ups or whatever. And until they can get things figured out, where I don't think the Flyers are going to have that issue. I think we're going to be able to hit the ice run and kind of like we did last year, coming in Prague and just hitting the ice run. And I think we're going to come out of the gates flying this year too.
I like that. All right. Well, we're gearing up to the end here. This was really fun. Actually, there's a lot of fun stuff to talk about. I like the heat there at the end with the Giroux conversation. I think that's kind of what I thought was most interesting. I kind of expected a bunch of ideas because that's where we are with this lineup. It's like nobody has any idea what's going on. We can argue all day, but until AV puts those lineups together, at least we see something in camp. We have no idea what's going to happen.
It's a bad problem to have.
Yeah, I feel you. So before I say bye here, I want to give one more shout out to Jim Steaks. Thank you again, Jim's, for our sponsor. Check out Jim Steaks in Philly, 3rd Street, South Street. Jim's has awesome steaks. Again, I'm a healthy person. I love to just take out of a plate of meat. If you're like a keto person or something, I do that stuff all the time. They have awesome food. Yeah, there you go. So, you just keep it clean that way, or, but it's just good takeout food and also support your local businesses. I definitely think that they could use it. Though, with hockey season coming back, I'm sure they're going to be selling cheesesteaks. All right. Before we close this out, though, one more shout out for you guys. Pearlo, why don't you give yourself a shout out? Tell people where they can follow you, where they can, if you have anything coming up, any content coming out, or any work you've released recently where people can check out your work.
Pearlo's NHL POW is my Twitter. You can head over there and frolic with me over there. On my NHL Pearls of Wisdom is my YouTube channel. I'm doing a series right now on every team and what they did in the off season. I'm just about to get one going for the Toronto Maple Leafs, but we all did some Philadelphia Flyers stuff and all of that. And you can find all of that at www.steelflyers.com, all sports network. That's going to be just going off this year in the new year. It's going to be amazing. I'd highly recommend you check it out because you will just be so impressed. I know you will. That's where you can find me.
I love that. Nice sales pitch there. That's a good. I know you'll be impressed. I love that.
That's why he's part of the crew, man. Come on. He's part of one of the faces of SteelFlyers. Come on now.
That's awesome. And Steel, tell people where they can follow you.
You can follow me on Twitter at SteelFlyers52 and also SteelFlyers, www.steelflyers.com. We came out with the Pearlo, NHL Pearlo Wisdom Show we came out with. We came out with Off the Wall Hockey Show. I did a show last night with 5-star matchup. He's for the Steelers. So you got to check that out. We got all kinds of great content coming out. Also, you got to check out the Hockey Writers Inc. I do that with Lance Green. He's the writer from Flyers Nitty Gritty. Yeah, man. Check out the swag. Yeah. So I'm supporting my local.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, man, for sure, man. This has been a blast, man. I can't even thank you guys enough because it was because of the great Jamie Baskow.
Of course.
The
great Jamie Baskow.
The great Jamie Baskow, Captain Jamie, that put me and Pearlo together. Right. And he's like, man, you got to check this Pearlo guy out, man. You got to just check him out. And I was like, all right. And before you know it, here we are. So big thanks to Flyers Nitty Gritty. All the work that you guys do is awesome. All the stuff that you guys put out is awesome. All the writing, all the podcasts, all the shows. Look, if you ain't watching these guys, you're missing out.
Thank you.
Yeah,
really
man, for sure.
That, appreciate you saying that. And I love Jamie. He's definitely somebody who brings people together. That guy's a huge heart. One of the biggest, I love that man. He knows that already. I talked to him.
Absolutely.
He actually called while we were recording, so I have to call him back.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you again. No, really appreciate you guys coming on. Definitely everybody check out their stuff as well. You'll see them on Twitter. You guys do an amazing job sharing our stuff out and supporting us. So thank you so much for that. It's always a huge help, when you guys share our stuff out and vice versa.
Easy to support the best, my man. Yeah. Easy to support the best.
Appreciate it. And we'll try to get you back on later. I mean, we're going to be full, and I'm sure you guys are going to be full with your schedules. We're going to have a lot of stuff to do, but maybe we'll do one of these a little bit down the line. We'll talk about it, see how these opinions went, see how we did in our predictions ahead of time.
Looking forward to it, my man.
Who was a little bit accurate.
I'm sure I'll be able to shuffle a few things around. This has been too much fun.
For sure.
We'll make it happen. And hopefully we can get Lance on that one too. I was hoping to get maybe him on the next one as well. We can do a little bit bigger of a show. All right. Well, this was awesome. Thank you everybody for listening. Thank you guys for subscribing, for purchasing our stuff, whatever, in any way that you support us. Even just liking this video is huge help to us. Sharing, whatever, reading, taking the time. We really appreciate it. We never forget it, and it keeps the lights going, keeps us moving. So appreciate it. Just, everybody stay safe out there. Have a great New Year's. It's going to be right before New Year's. If you're listening to it, rolling into 2021, I think everybody is pretty happy to do that. Stay safe out there. Stay away from COVID. And remember to always stay gritty.